Are there any Man of La Mancha fans out there? Because if there is, maybe you will relate to this. I really like the musical Man of La Mancha, and when reading Gideon the Ninth and seeing that name, Dulcinea, all I can think of is the song from Man of La Mancha about Dulcinea. And every time I read it, I'm just like, Dulcinea, Dulcinea, in my head all the time. Like, maybe that's just me, but for some reason, the name Dulcinea just always makes me think of Man of La Mancha. And maybe that's just because that's the main place that I have had that name. It's more of a unique name. I haven't really heard like anybody having that name that I've known. So maybe that's why I always think of that song. But literally, after reading the chapters 6 through 10, I just wanted to sing that song afterward. And now that I'm about to film, it's stuck in my head because that's all I can think about. Anyway, let's get on to today's class. Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be going over the next set of chapters for Gideon the Ninth, chapters 6 through 10. But before we go ahead and jump into that, let's go ahead and go over our weekly trivia question as always. The correct answer from last week's question was dryads. And congratulations to everyone who got it correct. That would be Dan, Paul, and Brendan. And thank you for everybody who participated. I really appreciate you playing with me. And if you would like to go ahead and join in on the trivia question, go ahead over to the blog. It will be on that right-hand side. You just scroll down just a little bit and it will be there. Or if you're on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way down and you'll be able to find it there. So hopefully you will join us in playing the trivia question and seeing if you know the answer. Okay, let's go ahead and start with our recap as always. So this set of chapters has quite a bit that's going on in it. We are moving fairly quickly into the events of things. Gideon at the beginning is being trained to be able to fight with a one-handed sword, to be a proper cavalier for Haru. It's not really working out quite as well for her, but she is starting to learn and getting better at that process. And then Haru and Gideon both travel off-planet to the planet that houses the first house, which is a very interesting experience for both of them in many different ways. And as they are being led inside the house of the first, they are seeing the other people, the seventh and the third, if I remember correctly, houses being coming out. And one of them starts to fall, so Gideon catches her and catches one of the new Lyctors and is threatened by her cavalier. They solve that situation, and then everybody goes ahead and heads inside. And all of the new Protector Lyctors and their cavaliers are there, and they have a little kind of introductory little thing where they talk about what's going to happen and what the roles of the prospective Lyctors are versus the cavaliers. And the cavaliers are given rings, or at least we believe everyone is given rings. They are all given something, and Gideon is given a ring. So the next day, Haru has left before Gideon has a chance to see her, and she has stolen the ring that Gideon was given, and tells her that she is not allowed to talk to anybody. She sets up that very strict rule that she is not allowed to speak one word to anybody else while she has that in effect, as part of her punishment for saving or catching the Lyctor outside of her when she's coming out. So then Gideon is left to explore for the day. She goes and eats by herself, looks around, kind of not necessarily spies on people, but she does have a couple moments where she does get to listen in on some other conversations and has a couple of interactions with people, though she does not speak back to them. And at the end, she ends up seeing Dulcinea, which is the Lyctor that she caught. She finally learns her name. I believe it is pronounced Dulcinea. That's how it's spelled, in my opinion. So please let me know if you think it's said a different way. And Dulcinea talks to Gideon and has the kind of interaction that she can with her, with Gideon nodding and stuff like that. But Dulcinea seems very interested in Gideon, and that's where we leave it. Is after that interaction they go ahead and go their separate ways, and it definitely seems like she is very interested in Gideon. Alright, so again, since this is something that I'm reading for the first time, I just thought I'd say that I'm really enjoying this book so far, and I hope that you guys are too, and really finding it interesting. It's very a unique story, something that's like, I don't even know how to describe it to somebody else on exactly what kind of story it is. Maybe as I go along more, I'll be able to think of more of a what kind of story it is, where if you're trying to describe it to somebody else, but at this point it's very, very unique, and that's something that I really like, that it's something completely in its own kind of section, having its own storyline, very unique storyline, very unique events happening, kind of a mix of the genres. So far so good, and I hope that you are enjoying it with me as well. And let's go ahead and talk about the ninth house. So even though right now we are not presently in the house of the ninth for most of these chapters, we're in the house of the first, I think that you learn a lot in these chapters about the ninth and what the ninth is supposed to be, even though we are not actually physically in the ninth learning and seeing these things. So we had a little bit of an interaction with the ninth personally, with Gideon being there and us seeing what's happening there. But then we're here in the first, and Gideon keeps thinking about things and how it relates to the ninth, or there are comments made based on the ninth house. So one thing that's very interesting that I find is that all the other houses seem to be very, very hostile toward the ninth. Dulcinea, which I'm gonna admit that I don't remember if she was from the third or the seventh house. I think it was the seventh house. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and double. Okay, so I just looked it up, and yes, it is from the seventh. I was right. Woo! So anyway, so Dulcinea is the only person that seems to be interested in the ninth. Everyone else seems very, very hostile, and at this point we don't totally know why they're so hostile. But they're definitely not happy with the ninth. They're very adamant about being stuck up and, being very hostile in their interactions with the ninth. We have it that one when she's eating, at the second time that she's eating, and the other house is kind of jeering at her and making snide comments that she can hear. The Cavalier is very nice to her, but the others are not in that group. So it's very interesting to see how much hatred it seems that the other houses have for the ninth, and we don't know why that is. Hopefully we will continue to learn, but it does kind of give us a perspective of the ninth, and maybe a reason why, the fact that Haru's parents have been dead for a long time, I think like 7 years, 10 years, something like that, that they haven't recognized that they, are so out of it in their connection to the ninth that that's not obvious for everybody else, that they aren't even being ruled by the people who are supposed to be ruling it and are able to keep their secret for so long. So we're going to see how that ends up continuing forth, but that's something that's very, very interesting to know about the ninth, that they are somehow separated from the other houses. And it's also shown that they have a unique prayer and a unique religion compared to the other houses. So all the other houses have the same chanting prayer that they all sound together and do together. And Gideon's looking around like, I've never heard this before. And when I was reading it, I was like, well, is Haru saying it next to her? Like, I'm confused. Like, is it just Gideon that doesn't know it? Or they didn't really specify until after everyone else is done. They ask Haru and the Ninth to do their own prayer for their own religious ceremony kind of thing. And Gideon and Haru, have a separate prayer that Haru says. And everyone's just looking at them like, what? There's a different religion in the Ninth? So we don't know exactly what the differences are. We don't know exactly what the religious differences are or the prayer that they did that was so different. We don't totally understand it, but we do get that the Ninth is yet again shown to be separated. And the other houses didn't even really consider that they were going to be separated until, they ended up doing this other prayer. And then as we move forward, we see these comments that Gideon is making to herself, or as she's thinking about them. But, she's eating her breakfast and she has this skeleton that is being her waiter or waitress, and is taking her food and bringing her food for her. And it's one of the best skeletons she's ever seen. And it's very well constructed. It works really, really well. And the Ninth is supposed to be the house that is most adept and most skilled at making skeletons and bringing them to life and animating them. But here, there is more well-constructed skeletons and more well-functioning skeletons than in the Ninth. And so, obviously, whatever skills Haru's parents had, we don't know if they were as adept as the Ninth is supposed to be. But they obviously were not able to teach Haru the skills because she obviously does not create as good of skeletons as the first is. So it's very, very interesting to see this perspective of what the Ninth is supposed to be, and we are finding out that it is lacking in this sense. And we kind of understand, Haru is the one that's been running the place since she was a little kid and not yet fully developed in her abilities. But what does that mean for the Ninth? And the Ninth is supposed to have the best skeletons. It's supposed to be the most skilled. It's supposed to be, really the at least from my impression, it's supposed to be like the main power that can really connect with the earth and connect with the dead. And it's kind of more based around being truly immersed in death and necromancy and stuff like that. And yet here it is, the first house is better and more adept at doing what the Ninth is supposed to be the best at doing. So what will that mean? Well, again, is that something that's going to be kept a secret, that we don't want any of the other houses to know? And will that come to light? How is this all going to turn out is the question. Is what is it supposed to mean for moving forward at this point? So we see these differences, we understanding now a little bit about the Ninth and its role in the group of things, and we see the first and the differences and what's supposed to be happening and what's not happening and what is happening. So what is that going to mean, and how will we be moving forward? Will it be affecting things? Will people find out, and will that change how things go? There's even that comment that Dulcinea makes about Gideon being a real tomb maiden. So what does that mean exactly either? What is a real one versus a fake one? And why are they, if they are, classified differently, why are they classified differently versus these other houses? We don't understand yet what the other houses' specialties are, or what the other houses are meant to be the best at, or anything else like that. All we know is that they don't like the Ninth, and right now the first at least has a lot more skill in the thing that the Ninth is supposed to be the best at. So we are trying to see, we're moving forward, and more things are coming to light about this world, how things are supposed to work, and the culture that Gideon is supposed to be coming from. So I just think it's really, really interesting to see the Ninth and how it's supposed to be portrayed, and how these other people are interacting with them because they are from the Ninth, and what that will mean in the future. Next, let's go ahead and talk about Dulcinea. She obviously is going to be a little bit more of a prominent character at this point, in the fact that we have had quite a bit of interaction with her since we have been moved to the first house and she has come in. So she's the first person they interact with, or she's getting off her space shuttle and she falls and Gideon catches her. And we find out that she is very, very sick. So sick that, you know, the for people of the first were like, why did you even come? You shouldn't have come. We don't know why at this point she decided to come anyway, but she is here, and something about her having a sickness with her blood that is supposed to not be easily, like something that kills people all the time, but for some reason for her, she is not able to fight whatever virus or whatever this wrongness with her blood is. And so she is very, very sick. She seems to know a lot about the Ninth. We don't know exactly what the other people know in terms of things. We just see their hostility, but she seems to be very interested in the Ninth culture. She even mentioned that she wanted to visit the Ninth and go there and be a part of there. She is very much knowledgeable about the Ninth, and almost to a sense that's very, you know, surprising for Gideon, and almost, you know, makes Gideon question how she knows it, and question if what she's saying is true. But yeah, so she seems to be very knowledgeable and very intrigued by the Ninth, which is such a contrast to everybody else. Everybody else is like, stay away from me, you're the Ninth, we don't want anything to do with you, we have no reason to interact with you at all, please stay away, and being angry at the Ninth for no apparent reason, because Gideon obviously hasn't done anything, and she's being very hostile comments toward her, very hostile interactions. We do have a little bit of mixed with the nicer interactions with that one cavalier who was nice to her and apologized for the others' comments, but for the most part, people are very much anti-Ninth. But then Dulcinea here is somebody who is basically the opposite of Gideon. Gideon's trying to escape the Ninth at all costs. She's like, I am getting out of here. And Dulcinea is saying, I wanted to join the Ninth. I wanted to see the Ninth. I find the Ninth fascinating, and I wish I was part of that culture, and all these things, and has taken a very high interest in Gideon. We can see that she wants to talk to her, wants to interact with her. She already knew she was going to be under a vow of silence, and that totally didn't bother her at all, and she was like, I'm still going to talk to you in the way that I can. So it makes me wonder exactly who Dulcinea is. Obviously she's very sick, and obviously she came here anyway, but what does that mean, and who exactly is this person? And why is she so interested in the Ninth, and why is she so enraptured with the culture there? She isn't intimidated or hostile at all toward Gideon. She is very delighted by Gideon and her presence. And so we're going to see exactly how that develops, and exactly who she is and why she is acting that way. And also going to find out why she's so interested in Gideon. It seems interesting that she finds her so fascinating right off the bat. So I find Dulcinea so far very intriguing, very interesting. I really want to know more about her. I really want to know about how she is sick and how that's going to play into things. I really want to know, you know, if she can even become a Lyctor, if that will end up saving her in some way, since they do talk about the Lyctors and having these long lifespans. We're going to see exactly what her interactions with the Ninth and how that progresses, and how that will change things versus the others. So lots of interesting things with this new character, and this seems to be somebody who, at least from my perspective, seems that they're going to be more prominent in the story at this point. We're going to find out. Okay, so let's move on to what actually are the Lyctors supposed to be. Because we understand that they are all here to become new Lyctors, but we don't totally understand yet, and we're just starting to learn about what Lyctors are and who they're supposed to be becoming. So we do find out that the Lyctors were given eternal life, but there is a distinction made that this does not mean that they were born with it, they were given it. So there is that main distinction. So now they are dying. They were given eternal life, but I'm assuming because they weren't born with it, that's the impression that they have given me, is that since there's that distinction, that they have had just a very, very, very long, extended life, and now they are dying off. We don't know if it's just from old age or what exactly has been killing them off, but now they are desperately needing more to help the undying Lord, because Lyctors, we have learned now, serve the undying Lord. So we're down to one Lyctor left, and that is why so many need to be replaced, and there are so many openings. And they have been serving this undying Lord, and we know that he has not been seen for 9,000 years. We don't know where he's supposed to be coming back from. They say that he hasn't been back in 9,000 years, so we don't really know where he goes or exactly what Lord this is. We're still, at least for me, very interested and very confused on exactly who the undying Lord is, what his role is in all of this, and exactly what everything means. But we know that Haru wants to become a Lyctor, and that Lyctors serve the undying Lord and are apparently given eternal life. So obviously that doesn't mean that life will last forever, but it certainly lasts for a heck of a long time. So we are still pretty unclear about exactly what the Lyctors do other than serving the undying Lord. Haru seems to think that she's going to make it back to the Ninth after becoming a Lyctor. So we don't really know like how they're stationed or what they do precisely at this point in our reading. Hopefully they will unearth more and more information that it will explain more and more about this position and who these people are, but we're gonna find out. They are supposed to be just be able to test themselves to becoming a Lyctor, which I think is very interesting. They mention how the first is not able to give them tests because they are not, Lyctors are above them. They don't have the right to make tests that will correctly grade or correctly measure whether somebody could be a Lyctor or not. So a lot of it is supposed to come from within the people themselves to be able to transcend to becoming a Lyctor. So it's a lot of ambiguity still at this moment. How does somebody make their own tests if they don't know what they're supposed to be doing and what kind of tests they should be doing? And at this point we haven't met with Haru, so we have no idea really in the scheme of things what tests she's doing or what she's working on or what most of them are doing. We've only had very minimal interactions with all of the houses and stuff like that, so hopefully we're going to learn more and more as it comes on. Obviously it is a very hard test because, you know, the first mentions, hey, you understand that you could die or you could be unable to continue forth after a certain point, and that is very interesting to be able to make that distinction when they don't even make up the tests or know what tests they should be having. So we're not really sure at this point what's going on with becoming a Lyctor, and hopefully we will learn more as we progress. But I would really love to hear your thoughts on what you think is happening with the Lyctors, whether the testing, whether you think that you understand like how it's going to be progressing, what kind of role they do, how they serve the Undying Lord. If you have any thoughts or opinions based on this, I'd love to hear your thoughts and what you are guessing is going to happen. I'd love to know down below if you don't mind giving me a comment and letting me know. Okay, and last but not least, as always, we have the nitty-gritty. So I have three main things that I think we should keep in mind and that are very interesting concepts. So Haru turned off the heat on Gideon when she was in the middle of her training, and she was angry about her not wearing the makeup and stuff like that, and it almost kills her to not have that heat on because it's so cold. She's almost freezing to death. And that to me says a lot about Haru. And she is, we already knew that she does a lot of mean things to Gideon, but we just see another thing where it's like, this person is just horrible. Like, who does that? Like, almost killing her. And it's like, you need her to be your cavalier and you're gonna risk almost killing her as a punishment? I don't know. It's just very extreme and really shows a lot about Haru. And we've seen even more about Haru, how she stole the ring, the silly ring that didn't seem like it was very ornate or special in any way. They've given it to the Cavaliers, possibly for an important reason, and Haru just steals it from her and is like, that's mine because you can't own anything. Haru is a very interesting character for me, but also one of those people that I'm just like, you are a horrible, horrible person. And it gets me a little worked up because I'm like, how can somebody be quite so horrible to somebody who doesn't do anything really in return? She doesn't, Gideon at this point, even though yes, she tried to escape, she doesn't do any backlash. She's not the nicest to her, but obviously Haru initiates that. But it's not like she tries to hurt Haru in any way, really. She doesn't actually try to do anything vindictive. She even is following her rules of not talking to anybody, which to me makes no sense. And even Gideon's like, why am I doing this? So I just think that's very telling of Haru and the kind of character she is, and also telling of Gideon that she has to deal with this. No wonder she wants to escape the Ninth. Like, I mean, who else would want to live in conditions where you're treated that horribly just for, you know, something that is considered minor? You know, I feel like Gideon might actually do what she's told and might have much more respect and caring about what's happening here if you actually treated her with respect and didn't treat her like, you know, you were a toy to be played with. But I guess I can't know for certain since I haven't seen Gideon in that situation, but I just feel so bad for Gideon to have to deal with this, and I can understand completely why she wants to escape the Ninth if this is how they treat her. The second thing is that space was very, very hard for Haru. And they do make comments that make it seem like it is hard for a lot of necromancers because they are in space, they are away from the dirt and away from the living undead. I don't know if that makes sense because, you know, obviously they create things from what used to be life, and in this void of space there is no life to have died to have a connection to. It seems kind of weird to say that necromancers have a connection to life and to earth and to nature because they're dedicated to bringing and controlling dead things back to life. But I do think that's kind of what they're showing here, is that Haru needs the earth and the dirt where the dead things are buried and kept, because she is a necromancer. And so this space where it has nothing, there's just nothing, no life that has died to connect with, it seems very, very hard on her. And Gideon makes a comment saying that, you know, a lot of necromancers do bring dirt and soil onto the transports in order to help them feel like they're not quite so lost in space. So obviously there is some kind of connection between the earth and the dead and the necromancer that is very important, and Haru really struggles with this hour-long journey she has to this other planet. So we're going to see how that plays in and if that plays a more important role as we move forward. And last but not least, I just want to mention the twins because they seem very interesting. We don't see too much of them. We do know that they're not really supposed to both be there. They just are there as a technicality. And that they both were having this conversation that Gideon could hear, and then one of the twins, we don't know if the other one could or not, but one of the twins stops back and looks at Gideon, even though she shouldn't be able to see her, and specifically talks to her and tells her, hey, be careful what you're doing because we can tell that you're watching us right now. So kind of a hint of something there. And we're going to see what that means in the future and who exactly these twins are as well. And that is it for chapters 6 through 10 of Gideon the Ninth. Hopefully you enjoyed this discussion today. Go ahead for the next Gideon class, go ahead and read chapters 6 through 10, which is for me pages 60 through 107 on my digital copy. Hopefully you are enjoying the book and enjoying the discussions. Please let me know if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything at all. I would love to have a discussion with you about this book down in the comments below. Or if it's easier for you, you're welcome to reach me on my social media. You can go to Twitter, which is at fantasyfiction1. You can go to Facebook, which is /fantasyfiction1. And you can also reach me on the Discord. If you want to go ahead and talk with other fantasy fanatics, we have a whole conversation going on over there and lots of stuff happening over there. So hopefully you will join in too and you'll be able to talk with me and other fantasy fanatics such as yourself about lots of different things over there. We'd really enjoy having you to have fun discussions with over there. If you want the link, it's going to be down below. Also, if you want more content from me or to join in the trivia question like I mentioned back at the beginning, you can head over to my blog, which is fantasyfictionfanatics.net. Lots of different things over there. I've got book suggestions, talking about other kind of things for fantasy, fantasy trivia, fantasy terminology, fantasy, basically anything and everything over there. I've got writing tips over there. Lots of different other kinds of content, recommendations for movies and TV shows, anime, all that good stuff. So if you want more other content, go ahead and jump over there and see what I've got there. Yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you so much, as always, for coming on this adventure with me, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!